I can make bad things happen to people who are mean to me. I can make them hurt.
Ugh. Why did Dumbledore let this kid learn at Hogwarts? Look, I don't think anyone can talk to a kid for a few minutes and immediately say that they're evil, especially to the level that Voldemort is, but, with the benefit of hindsight, this sure doesn't look good. But at the same time, what's the alternative here? Tom already has a grip on his powers before he attends Hogwarts. What if he goes from hanging rabbits to hanging orphans? And yeah, we can look at that as the lesser of two evils when you consider just how many lives that Voldemort destroyed. It's way too many to list even, but like if Harry's seeing it and everybody's seeing it, then why doesn't Dumbledore see it when he meets him right away? Is he just determined to see the best in everyone at all times? Is he just being naive? I mean, did he maybe drink too much with the matron of the orphanage, Mrs. Cole, before he met Tom Riddle? May I offer you a glass of gin? She said in an extra refined voice. Thank you very much, said Dumbledore, beaming.
Now what? What did you want? What? Let's go play in the hot yard.
I don't think so, and part of the reason for that is because in 99% of his appearances, Dumbledore knows what he's doing. And even the one dumb thing that he does in the series, which is putting on Marvolo's ring, it's not because he doesn't know what it is. It's because he knows that it's the resurrection stone. It's his deepest desire and his greatest shame that leads to him putting it on. So, by that logic, it means that he does see the potential for a dark wizard in Tom Riddle, even at that young of an age. But obviously, not to the point of Voldemort, but he does know about his stealing, his bullying, and that he used magic to hang a rabbit, and that's all before he even meets Tom. But Dumbledore then tries to correct his behaviors. He says, Tom, you have to give back the stuff you stole. And yeah, sure, you're going to learn about magic, but you're also going to have to control it. That's more of his priority, it seems, here. And, it's basically the carrot and the stick. He's offering Tom the carrot here, where he's saying, yeah, you're right, you are special, and I can help you become more special. But if you're going to be, then these behaviors have to change. Now, obviously, this doesn't work, and Voldemort ends up killing all of his remaining family members in the next 5 years, except for the uncle that he has sent to Azkaban to die in prison. But I think we have to look a little bit closer to see why Dumbledore made this mistake. This first meeting is obviously Voldemort's introduction to magic and his invitation to Hogwarts, but it takes place in 1937. And I bring up the year for it because there are a couple of other really important events going on at this same time: the rise of Grindelwald and World War II. Now, we obviously don't know how connected Grindelwald is to World War II, and, probably never will because Fantastic Beasts will probably never be finished, but obviously, we do know that he uses a vision of World War II to grow his following, and that he's defeated by Dumbledore in 1945, which is the last year of the war. My point, though, as far as the video goes, though, is Dumbledore has his attention pulled between the two darkest wizards of all time here, and I don't think it's a stretch to say that he's dealing with the clear and present danger first and foremost. Heck, I'd even say it would be irresponsible if he didn't deal with Grindelwald more than he did Voldemort. And the consequence to this is it allows Tom to grow into Voldemort more unchecked than he otherwise would have. And I say more unchecked because there is evidence that Dumbledore still does work closer with Voldemort than he does most of his students. First is in Chamber of Secrets, when the Riddle Horcrux just flat out says that Dumbledore kept an annoyingly close eye on him after he opened the Chamber of Secrets 50 years earlier. And as a quick aside, the chamber is first opened in 1942, so that means that Dumbledore is simultaneously dealing with Grindelwald at the peak of his powers and preventing Voldemort from setting a basilisk loose on Hogwarts. So, just wanted to give a quick little shout out to the most powerful wizard of the age.
Dumbledore's got style.
The other is in Half-Blood Prince when he and Harry are going to the cave to get the locket. He is able to figure out basically right away that the cave requires payment and that it's blood that it wants. And, when Harry asks him this, he says that it's because he taught Voldemort and knows his style. But, Does that mean that he can recognize any student's magic here? I mean, maybe it's possible. I guess he remembers that Dawlish got all O's on his NEWTs when he's about to be attacked by the minister. So, hey, maybe Dumbledore remembers every student he's had and knows their style. Look, all Chandler Bing aside here, I don't think Dumbledore is going to remember every student he's had. He's obviously going to remember some of the more exceptional ones, but with Voldemort in particular, he's going to be taking the memories out of his own mind, and he's going to study them in the Ponsieve just so that he can make sure that he knows as much as possible about him. Because let's say that Dumbledore and Voldemort don't really stay in touch after he graduates in 1945. I know, right? Crazy. But that's 7 years that they knew each other. So about 20 years later, Voldemort interviews with Dumbledore for the Defense Against the Dark Arts post and is obviously rejected. And, Dumbledore doesn't really seem to know how to handle him anymore. He even laments the fact that he can't scare him like he used to. And, maybe that's the problem. Maybe they just weren't close enough and they, just needed to go get a drink at the Leaky Cauldron every once in a while. Ah, Tom, good to see you again, son. Thanks for coming out, having a drink with me. See, you're already starting with a gin there. Who else used to drink gin? Your old matron, Mrs. Cole. God, what a woman. Wish I could remember some of the things we talked about, though, I think you might have come up once or twice. You used to like decorating for Easter, right? Oh my god, that's such a dark joke. Hanging rabbits. Oh god, that might have been worse than any kill the spare joke you can make.
Shame. Shame, shame, shame! Shame on you!
I'm not even saying that Voldemort was capable of changing, though, because he can't feel empathy, so at the end of the day, maybe no matter what Dumbledore did, he wouldn't have been able to, but at the same time, if he's able to incentivize Voldemort to keep him in his life, then maybe he doesn't learn about the Horcruxes, or maybe the two of them discover his family lineage together so that he isn't able to then kill his remaining relatives in front of Dumbledore and then can't open the Chamber of Secrets. And this isn't because he's suddenly a good person. The incentive to keep Dumbledore around would be, some sort of, reward or knowledge or something, but then all of a sudden, he can't do the same things that he was doing before because there's too much risk that Dumbledore will catch him doing these things. So if anything, maybe Dumbledore's mistake here was that he wasn't involved enough in Tom Riddle's life at a young age. But at the same time, this is where Dumbledore's greatest strength is turned into a weakness when Voldemort is involved. "Didn't you tell them, sir, what he'd been like when you met him at the orphanage?" asked Harry. "No, I did not. Though he had shown no hint of remorse, it was possible that he felt sorry for how he had behaved before, and was resolved to turn over a fresh leaf. I chose to give him that chance." Dumbledore is forgiving. He gives chances where other people wouldn't, and, he has people being fiercely loyal to him, just showing how much he can understand people. It's why he extends an olive branch to the giants. It's why he stops and has a conversation with his would-be assassins. I mean, heck, even when, Fenrir Greyback in that conversation is trying to just scare him, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm eating people when I'm not in werewolf form now. Does that frighten you? And Dumbledore basically just responds to him like, no, that's just weird, bro. You shouldn't be doing that.
Stop it. Get some help.
And that is why Dumbledore lets a young Tom Riddle learn at Hogwarts when so many of us would have heard the way that kid was talking and ran for the hills. But not Dumbledore, who believes that anyone is capable of turning their life around. Now, I don't think Voldemort was capable of feeling empathy, but he is smart enough to understand consequences and the privileges of having Dumbledore around. So maybe if Dumbledore's around him more, he doesn't do any murdering or making Horcruxes, and instead with his desire, he just becomes Minister of Magic in more traditional ways. Yeah, maybe it was better that Dumbledore wasn't more involved. So at the end of the day, I think that Dumbledore lets Tom Riddle learn at Hogwarts for the same reason why he keeps Hagrid on as gamekeeper. Same reason why he lets Lupin attend and teach. And why he trusts Snape to the end. You know, that's somebody who at the very least was accused of manslaughter, a serious risk to all the students at Hogwarts, if not the Hogsmeade area as a whole. And you know, I can't really think of anything that Snape was accused of specifically, but he was a Death Eater, so it could be anything. And those were his teachers. Tom was just a kid, and, you know, you're gonna be more forgiving with a child, you know, and at the end of the day, maybe there is an alternative world where Dumbledore is able to be more involved and Voldemort doesn't become a mass murdering, coup-leading puppet master. Maybe understanding the power of love is enough, and that's Dumbledore's mission statement right there. You know, maybe it's arrogance on his part that he believes enough in the power of love that, you know, everybody deserves a second chance and that he believes that he can help turn anybody's life around, you know. And then at the end of the day, maybe the problem with him and Voldemort was just timing, because he wasn't able to teach him that enough. Who knows? Maybe Rita's right about him, though maybe he's a doddering old fool. But now the question is for you guys. Do you think Dumbledore would have been able to help a young Tom Riddle, or was Voldemort always destined to rise? And does this make Voldemort a more interesting character if we're looking at his choices rather than just saying, oh, he was the result of a love potion, he never stood a chance anyway? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video today, please drop a like, subscribe if you want more like this, and I'll see you guys next time on STV.